Now that I talked about Alpha, let's continue on with the other members of Shadow Garden, and Beta is the next person that was recruited by Sid. Similar to the previous video, I'll be covering her story throughout the series along with her talents, powers and abilities. As usual, this video will contain spoilers for a character, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.
やはりあなたたちが進みなさい。そして使命を果たすのです。
So who was Beta before she met Sid and joined Shadow Garden? Well, basically, she was similar to Alpha in that they both came from the same elven country and they were acquainted with each other since young. However, because demon possession was common among elves, she would eventually be afflicted with it, so she was disowned by her family and chased out of her homeland. Luckily, she was found by Alpha and her master Sid Kagenou was able to cleanse her demon possession. She was also given the name of Beta and became the third member to join their organization. Beta would then help with their search for other people that suffered from demon possession, and eventually 5 other girls would join their organization. But when she was still a new member, she could never find a reason to fight or get used to the idea of killing, and whenever she killed someone, she would become completely paralyzed with fear. This greatly affected her ability to carry out missions for Shadow Garden, but she was able to overcome her fears thanks to the wisdom given to her by her master in the form of fairy tales from his previous world. Also, did you know that her favorite stories were apparently Cinderella and Snow White? Now, the stories helped to calm her soul, and because of this, she also found her reason to fight and live, which is to one day have enough power to stand next to Sid and do whatever it takes to help him realize his goals. That's why it slowly became easier for her to kill, and even though she still doesn't like combat, she committed herself to Sid's combat and magic training. And among the 7 shadows, Beta was considered to be the 4th to 5th strongest, being tied with Epsilon. Also, she can be considered to be a jack of all trades, master of none type of person, excelling in multiple areas of expertise like administration, reconnaissance, leadership, magic, and many more. But when compared to Alpha and the other girls that are more specialized in their own skills, Beta isn't as capable. That said, when Sid's sister Claire Kagenou was kidnapped by the Cult of Diablos, Beta had reported to him regarding the results of their investigation on her whereabouts, but thanks to Sid's reality-bending luck, they easily discovered her location, so Beta along with the rest of Shadow Garden began their attack on the enemy hideout. They managed to eliminate most of the enemy forces before confronting Viscount Oba, the person behind the kidnapping. However, Alpha decided to let the Viscount escape because he would eventually be dispatched by the Master Shadow anyways. And following the successful rescue of Claire, Beta along with the other girls reported their findings on the cult to Sid and informed him about their departure in order to expand Shadow Garden. So after receiving permission from the master, they would depart for 2 years, and over the 2 years, Beta had helped in the reorganization and development of Shadow Garden. She was assigned to handle the desk work of their organization like analyzing and documenting information, but she would also be actively involved in missions requiring off-site investigations on the cult and operations to rescue the possessed. Also, when they needed to find the ancient city of Alexandria, she was part of the expedition and even fought against the Mist Dragon. And apparently during the confrontation, she actually talked to the dragon because her intellectual curiosity got the better of her and she wanted to learn more about the mysteries behind the ancient city. Luckily, the dragon humoured her and later they were able to defeat the dragon thanks to the intervention of their Master Shadow. Now, after moving to their new base, the strength of Shadow Garden quickly grew and their numbers increased, so Beta even served as one of the instructors responsible for training the new recruits. But she started to feel frustrated because everyone else were playing active roles and achieving results while she had just been doing menial office work. Understanding her worries, Alpha decided to send Beta to the Holy Land of Lindwurm to find ways of getting into the Midgar Newspaper Association so they can access the resources and information archive of the newspaper organization. Beta decided to become a serial writer for the MNA, and after showing her work to an editor, she has quickly signed on as the novice author Natsume Kafka because she based her work on the otherworld stories told by Sid, so it was considered to be quite innovative. She then wrote her first story with Sid as her inspiration, and this would later become known as the Chronicles of Shadow, a record of all the actions and exploits of a Master Shadow. It was a success, and this became Beta's official debut as the writer known as Natsume Kafka. And following the success of her debut, it was also around this time that Epsilon started to treat Beta harsher and when their sense of rivalry began. Of course, they do get along peacefully most of the time since they basically grew up together, but the key word is most of the time, and we would see this rivalry develop into competing to see who would gain the attention of their master more, and most of the time it just comes down to them comparing their assets, which has become much more intense and funnier as they grew older. But anyways, Beta continued to build her reputation as Natsume Kafka, and because of this, she was able to gather a variety of intel from the M&A archives that greatly helped Shadow Garden in their battle against the cult, and she even used her connections to sometimes help Gamma predict business trends or survey competitors for the Mitsugoshi company. So over the 2 years, Beta mainly focused on using her public persona to form connections and expand her information network, while continuing to do her job for Shadow Garden and occasionally taking part in missions to fight the cult of Diablos or rescue the possessed. Now, after 2 years, Sid had finally enrolled at the Midgar Royal Spelser Academy, and when he was framed for the kidnapping of Princess Alexia Midgar, Shadow Garden was deployed to help search for the princess. During the operation, Beta was responsible for delivering the details of the plan to her master, and afterwards, she was supposed to serve as Alpha's assistant, but Sid decided to bring Beta along to deal with a ransom note sent by the soldiers that interrogated him. She was delighted to witness her master eliminate the soldiers while recording the events in her secret chronicles, but afterwards, the two would separate and Beta returned to her original objective. Now, following the success of the rescue mission, Beta was invited to the Holy Land of Lindwurm in her Natsume persona, and she would help with the investigation of the sanctuary. While performing her duties, she would also encounter a master and secretly provided the details of their plans to him in code, but he couldn't understand any of it. Beta later joined Princess Alexia and Rose Orana for the opening ceremony of the Goddess Trials, although her interaction with Alexia was quite hostile. The reason is, she considers Alexia to be a vermin that used her position as a princess to get close to her beloved master, while Alexia found Beta to be suspicious and disliked her fake personality. And I personally found their passive-aggressive interactions to be quite entertaining, especially when you consider that Beta and Alexia basically have the same personality. Also, Beta is definitely jealous of Alexia because in one of her entries inside the Chronicles of Shadow, she intentionally replaced Alexia being saved by Shadow with a character that oddly resembles herself. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. When the trial started, Beta was shocked by the unexpected arrival of her master Shadow and the appearance of the Wish of Calamity Aurora. She quickly made alterations to the plan by signaling Epsilon and continued to observe the situation, but when Shadow defeated the witch, the gates to the sanctuary finally opened. Shadow Garden made their entrance and they captured Natsume along with Archbishop Nelson and forced them to enter the sanctuary. Alexia and Rose would enter the gate as well, so Beta continued to act in her Natsume persona. That said, after Alpha reviewed the history of the hero Olivier and the intentions of the cult, Nelson activated the Sanctuary's defense system, but Alpha and Delta easily stopped him. Then they decided to ignore the Archbishop after completing the objective and they left the Sanctuary. Outside the Sanctuary, Beta, Alexia and Rose were transported to the outskirts of the city, and following the destruction of the Sanctuary by our Master Sid, Natsume agreed to work with them, but it was simply part of a plan to get closer to the royals and also to keep an eye on the both of them. However, their cooperation was cut short because during the God of War festival, Rose became a fugitive after a failed assassination attempt on her fiancé Perth Asshat. Natsume then warned Alexia to avoid interfering in the matter, but the stubborn princess persisted, so Beta had no other choice but to provide her with support, and also protecting the princess was part of her job. They eventually discovered Rose's location, which ultimately led to the two princesses confronting one another in a fight, and Rose managed to defeat Alexia. And because Rose was given power directly by Shadow, Beta allows her to depart, thinking that the master has another role for the princess while she tended to the unconscious Alexia. Now, Beta later traveled to the Lawless town to investigate the vampire queen Elizabeth and acquire samples of her blood. She would infiltrate the Red Tower along with a squad consisting of 664, 665 and the newly joined Rose as 666, but they were soon interrupted by Sid's sister Claire and the vampire hunter Milia. Both parties then agreed to leave each other alone and continue with their own objectives. However, Beta and the team were forced to intervene and save Claire when the newly awakened vampire queen gravely injured her. Beta and the team were able to hold Elizabeth back for a while, but when the vampire queen fully awakened, Beta knew they didn't stand a chance. Luckily, Yukime and Juggernaut arrived to help, so they were able to store enough time for Shadow to arrive. However, when Shadow was struggling against the vampire queen, Beta started to worry and completely misunderstood the situation, thinking that Shadow was worried about their safety when in reality, he simply stole too much gold coins and it weighed him down. Nonetheless, once Shadow removed the gold coins, he used Iron Recovery Atomic to defeat the Vampire Queen and heal everyone present. Beta would awaken later and she was able to recover a blood sample from Elizabeth before leaving with her team. Also, it seems like Beta discovered that she now possesses the same blood control ability as the Vampire Queen, likely because the blood of the possessed and the vampires share the same origin. With the Red Moon incident over, Beta was involved in a mission to eliminate the assassins sent by the major corporate alliance that were targeting the transport of the Mitsugoshi company, but later she wasn't really present for most of the conflict. However, she did deliver a report to her master regarding the state of affairs with the counterfeit money and Delta's disappearance because of the mysterious John Smith, not knowing that it was actually Sid just playing out one of his true Nimbio fantasies. Regardless, even though her master declined to help them, he did leave an encrypted note depicting his true intentions, and Beta later gave the note to Etta so that they can decipher the message. When they discovered their master's apparent betrayal, Beta arrived just in time with the note to reveal that he did not betray them and in fact has accumulated a large amount of funds that would help the Mitsugoshi company to survive the financial collapse. In any case, after the conflict with the MCA, Beta will arrive in the Orana Kingdom to help Epsilon deal with the cult of Diablos there. When Rose used her ring to reveal the truth about the cult, it unlocked the Black Rose, so Mordred, the 9th seed within the cult's Knights of Round, activated the weapon to summon obsidian monsters and even Ragnarok, the Grand Ruler of the 4th Demon Realm, to attack the citizens, but Shadow Garden arrived just in time to contain the damage. Beta and Epsilon easily overpowered Mordred, and even Ragnarok was defeated by Shadow, but not wanting to surrender, Mordred consumed the flesh of Ragnarok to empower himself. However, Shadow simply annihilated him with I Am Atomic, and as a result, the Black Rose was shattered and it became unstable. But Sid, who was equally unstable, decided to jump into the Black Rose, thinking that it looked cool, so Beta was forced to follow as well because she was worried about him. With that, they will arrive in Japan, Shadow's former world, and discover that it has been ravaged by magical beasts. And not wanting to stand out, they decided to change into outfits that are less conspicuous, and Beta apparently found some interesting clothing to say the least. They later posed as survivors and were taken in by a group called the Messiah. Sid introduced himself as Minoru and he would be under the care of Nishino Akane, while Beta disguised as Natsume was to be observed and studied by Nishino Akira. Beta believed that the plan was to obtain information from two different fronts, but in truth, Sid just wanted to limit her movements and didn't want her to discover that he was actually from this world. However, he underestimated the intelligence and adaptability of Beta because she eventually learned how to speak and write in somewhat broken Japanese. She would also secretly steal various electronic devices from Akira's lab, intending to bring them back to their world to be studied. And you know what impressed me the most? The fact that Beta actually learned how to use a laptop in quite a short period of time and even adapted to the toxicity of internet culture. Truly a talented girl. But jokes aside, Beta eventually discovered a way to return to their world by using the severed head of Mordred to open the gateway, and Sid entered first, but before Beta left as well, she could only pack a few smaller devices, but her main prize was taking Nishino Akane. When they returned to their world, Sid headed back to the academy while Beta delivered a report to Alpha back at the Mitsugoshi company. She showed them the various devices she brought back, but she was mainly questioned about the other worlder that she kidnapped. Beta actually wanted to hand the girl over to Etta, but Alpha ordered Beta to take care of the girl herself because she knew the horrible experiments that Etta might conduct on the girl if left unsupervised. Beta agreed, and later in the story, she doesn't really do much other than helping Etta to conduct research on the girl as well as studying the various other world devices. Overall, despite not having much to showcase regarding her powers and abilities, she can still easily make up for it through other talents like her acting skills, being able to seamlessly switch between her Beta and Natsume persona, or her adaptability like learning to understand Japanese in such a short period of time. I also think she's a fun character, and it seems like she is always the one that is getting dragged into the various shenanigans of Sid, although she probably enjoys it anyways. However, her interactions with Alexa and Epsilon are definitely my favorite because they are really entertaining to watch. But what do you think? Is Beta the best girl or someone else in Shadow Garden? But yeah, that was basically all the information on Beta's story as well as her powers and abilities. Hopefully I managed to cover everything. Also, what are your thoughts about her character, and did you enjoy the video? Feel free to share your thoughts down below, and if you did, be sure to give the video a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button as well, it really helps. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.